Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today. Going to be a little bit different structure today since obviously it was a different structure yesterday with the 4-game main slate overall. Hopefully you guys had some success there. So we won't be doing a recap today since there was no traditional core picks, as you would call it. And that's kind of the format that I would use going forward for those smaller slates where we only have like 3 or 4 games or less, just so we can talk through the slate just a little bit more in depth. And rather than have kind of the core picks. So today, mainly what I'll be focusing on, weather and play for today's games. The core picks that I do have here on FanDuel, so I have the screen brought up already. And then last but not least, going over the YouTube community tab, looking at the bottom half of the cheat sheet, my top stacks for today. Looking like quite a few teams that we could stack in total today, but the 4 most popular ones that I do have on that cheat sheet. The cheat sheet is 100% free. Is up on YouTube under the community tab. It's up on Twitter. It's up on Facebook. So definitely be sure to check that out. If you're looking for a couple more in-depth notes, check out the Patreon page as well. Patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports, Monday through Friday, some additional notes there. Whether or not I would play certain pitchers, avoid them, whether they're kind of risky plays, and then hitter versus pitcher matchups, guys that have good history in the past versus their specific matchup. But with that being said, getting right off the bat with the weather for today, the only real weather spot for today is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals game with the Dodgers. Some expected rain there. We'll see if the game gets in or not today, but Dodgers look like a pretty good team to stack. I left them out of my top teams to stack on the cheat sheet for this very reason. So that is something to keep in mind as we go forward today, but there is some potential with those Dodgers bats against Steven Matz tonight either way. So that's really the only true weather spot for today. Everything else should be pretty good. If anything does change throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments, though. So without further ado, no recap today since yesterday was more of an in-depth look than a core pick video. So the core picks that I do have for today. So pitcher position, really want to mix and match today. Just in general, there's not too many people that stand out. Ultimately ended up on Blake Snell as my core pitcher for today. He's had 3 straight quality starts. He's $8,900. So he's one of the cheaper, more viable options. Going against the Boston Red Sox today, should be an okay matchup for them. Or should be an okay matchup against them. He doesn't really have history versus many of these Red Sox hitters since it's been a little while since he's been with Tampa Bay, obviously, and some of the hitter changeover since then. So only averaged about 26 points on the year. Obviously, there were some slow starts where he was walking too many guys at the beginning of the year, but kind of straightened things out as of late. Like I said, the 3 straight quality starts. So if he can do something similar, once again, if we can get like 40 points at him, going to be a pretty good play for us overall. Saves us a little bit of money as well. Then we're going to move down to first base with Ryan Mountcastle. He is going against Yusei Kikuchi today. Typically a guy that hits left-handed pitching pretty well. He is 4 for 9 with 3 home runs versus Yusei Kikuchi in his career. So some pretty good history there. We can look at some of the past games for Mountcastle as of late too. On the season, he's got that 247 average, 9 home runs, 31 RBIs. So quite a handful of RBIs, only $3,100, averaging 11 fantasy points per game at this point in time. A little bit in research, but the upside is definitely there. This matchup, 3 home runs. Kikuchi is kind of more of a fly ball pitcher. He's pitched a little bit better this year, so we'll see how that kind of turns out today. But do you like this Orioles team in general? Then we're going to get off of Mountcastle, if it ever lets me get there, since the computer's lagging just a little bit today in general. So I do apologize for that. So next one we got is Xander Bogaerts. He's $3,100. He is going against the Boston Red Sox. Is James Paxton on the mound? A guy that I was very pessimistic for the last time out since it was his first MLB start since 2021. He actually pitched pretty well in that start, struck out 9 guys. But when we're talking about Xander Bogaerts versus James Paxton in his career, he's 7 for 23 with 3 home runs. So some pretty good upside there. But Bogaerts had the really hot start to the season, kind of cooled off a little bit since then. Another guy that's $3,100, averaging over 10 fantasy points per game on the season, 275 average, 6 home runs, 16 RBIs at this point in time. So, a guy that's on that, what is this, like a 6-game hitting streak now, I believe it is for him. He's still a pretty solid, safe play. The kind of concerns there with him has mainly just been the power that wasn't really there as much last season, but the 6 home runs this year definitely presents itself pretty well. Obviously, the good career history of James Paxton makes him pretty appealing as well. And he's one of the few guys that have faced Paxton a decent amount in the past. Which at the same time, it's kind of hard to say that a lot of these guys have faced him when Paxton himself hasn't even pitched in the majors since 2021. So there is something to be said about that as well. When we move down to outfield, we're going to start off with Anthony Santander. He had a pretty strong day yesterday as well, but he was 3 for 7 with 1 home run versus Kikuchi in his career. Like I said, I do like the Baltimore Orioles quite a bit today, so do like taking advantage of some of these hitters. Santander off to a slow start to the season, but kind of turned it around as of late. $3,000, averaging over 10 fantasy points. Got that average up to 263 now. The 7 home runs, 24 RBIs. Should be in the middle of the order once again. And, 2 pretty good games the last 2 times out, 2 multi-hit games in recent history. So, yeah, that has a little bit of upside. Got has a little bit of downside at the same time, but definitely do like him in this matchup today. And then last but not least, ended up on Chris Bryant at $2,800. He's 2 for 5 versus Martin Perez in his career. Martin Perez has not been quite as good this season. Game is in Texas. It's not a course field, so we don't have that extra excitement there, but it should lead to a little bit of reduced ownership for this Rockies lineup. And with that being said, Chris Bryant at $2,800 is just too good of value to pass up on today's slate overall. So definitely do like him there. And even if you look at the recent history, at $2,800, average 9 fantasy points per game, 297 average, 5 home runs, 16 RBIs. Pretty decent start to the year for him. He's avoided injuries so far, which has kind of been the biggest thing for him in recent seasons. 3 of his last 5 games have been multi-hit games, so a little bit of upside there to be had. Mainly the power just hasn't been there as of late, so that's kind of the thing really driving his price tag down, and a couple zero performances there as well. So maybe a little bit riskier than he would be on some other slates, but at $2,800, definitely willing to take that chance on today's slate overall. With that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed, you have $14,100 remaining, just over $3,500 per player. So definitely a lot of room and flexibility to pay up if that's something you really want to do. If you want to take a little bit more balanced approach from the rest of the slate, or for the rest of your hitters here, you can definitely do that as well. Should be a pretty interesting slate. 12 games in total today. But that's kind of what we do have in terms of the core picks for today. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, go over to the YouTube community tab, and talk about the bottom half of the cheat sheet and my top GPP teams to stack for today overall. So first up, we got the Chicago White Sox. They're going against Zach Greinke. I mentioned it plenty of times this year. Zach Greinke is not what he once was. He's 39 years old at this point in time, doesn't strike out a lot of bats. And this White Sox team has some pretty good, decent history versus him in the past. He has Monty Grandal, Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert's obviously been on a pretty decent hot streak. Jake Berger has decent history versus him. Tim Anderson, a lot of different options that you can attack today overall. If Gavin Sheets starts, he's an interesting left-handed bat, cheap option that you can play at first base and outfield if you want to go that direction as well. And then we have the Houston Astros going against Ken Waldichuk. Not a lot of history there. He's only had 1 start against them in the past, but Waldichuk has not been the greatest so far to start the season. Astros lineup still pretty decent, so definitely do like taking some shots there, whether it's a Yordan Alvarez, who's played pretty well outside of his most recent game. Kyle Tucker's a decent value at this point in time. Alex Bregman's starting to turn it on, so definitely a few options that we can attack from this Astros team overall. And then we move over to the Texas Rangers. They are playing against Carl Kaufman, who is making his debut for the Colorado Rockies. The AAA success, not that great either. So definitely do like stacking the Rangers today. Adolis Garcia has really, really been hitting the ball well as of late. Obviously, his price tag does reflect it, but definitely somebody to consider for today. If you want to attack some other Texas bats, you can do that as well. Marcus Semien obviously has that high price tag as well. Corey Seager recently returned, so their lineup's starting to shake out and get a little bit better. Nate Lowe, if you want to go that direction, you could probably go after it as well. And then we move over to the Baltimore Orioles. 2 of the guys are in the core picks with Anthony Santander and Ryan Mountcastle. Still like Austin Hayes quite a bit at $2,700. Pretty good value for him overall. If you want to attack some other bats in this lineup, definitely does make some sense against Yusei Kikuchi, who is typically a fly ball pitcher. Hasn't had the greatest success in the past, pitching a little bit better this season, but has kind of struggled against this Orioles team overall. But with that being said, that's kind of what I have at this point in time. A little bit quicker video today since there was no recap. Just a little bit of weather news, but hopefully you guys all found this live stream pretty informational. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully it helps you in your process of building lineups for tonight. That's my goal once again. But with that being said, if you have any additional questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. I'll also be trying to get as many starting lineups down there in the comments as the day moves along. So definitely be sure to check back up on that. Also be sure to let me know your favorite play on today's slate, whether it's someone from my core 5 picks, whether it's someone from my cheat sheet, my top GPP stacks, or whether it's a completely different player you guys think. I'm definitely interested in hearing what you have to say. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time or haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewer, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it is mainly MLB DFS as well as USFL DFS. That USFL DFS video will be going up around 11 o'clock Central Time, noon Eastern Time. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're into as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate everyone tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.